Listen up. There's a new danger in the era of online exploitation, a threat to use artificial intelligence technology to alter innocent photos.
Wisconsin middle school students recently became the target of a man seeking explicit photos online. When they refused to send them, he threatened to alter innocent photos of them using AI technology. It's a disturbing form of cyber abuse we first alerted you to just a few weeks ago. Brittany Schmidt tells us how the man befriended the students and why parents need to be aware of this growing worldwide trend.
Lawmakers, investigators, and attorneys general calling it a race against time to protect children from the dangers of AI.
With AI, the concern is that digital altering of images can happen very quickly, or that images can be made that resemble real people in a way that's going to cause harm.
The threat of it already happened in Muskego last week. Police learned a middle school girl accepted a friend request on Snapchat from supposedly a 15-year-old boy, and they exchanged innocent photos. That's when he revealed he was a 33-year-old man and demanded explicit photos.
If she didn't comply with what he wanted, he threatened to then alter the photograph that she had sent and send it out to family, friends, and post it online. Alter it to make it appear sexual or naked or sensitive in nature.
Muskego police say they are trying to trace the suspect through his Snapchat account. At least 10 middle school girls befriended him. As far as police are aware, the girls contacted in Muskego have not sent explicit photos themselves, and no deep fakes have been created from innocent photos sent to the suspect. Internationally, a different story in a town in Spain. More than 30 young schoolgirls ages 12 to 14 received fake nude images of themselves that were created using an undressing app powered by AI. Experts like Carrie Goldberg, who is not involved in the Spain case, but represented victims of digital sexual abuse, says the impact on victims is long-lasting.
They're very compelling and convincing photos so that it really does look like it's a picture of the victim nude. It really has the same devastating consequences as if it was an actual photograph that depicted you. The harm isn't any different.
So basically what the deep fakes do is they strip away that sense of security that we have for our own image being used in the way that it was originally intended.
Wisconsin Senator Andre Jacques of De Pere is circulating a proposed bill right now to strengthen laws against this ever-changing technology. While that works its way through the legislature, investigators say this is a wake-up call to everyone, especially parents.
So it's kind of a scary world that we live in, but we just tell parents and also kids, like, lock down your social media, don't put too much information on the internet, just the typical safety stuff that people should be able to, should think of.
And when it comes to photos, be careful and make sure you talk to your kids about the dangers of online exploitation. I'm Brittany Schmidt for Action 2 News.
And if you are a parent who loves sharing pictures of your kids on social media, Tammy Elliott talks with a cybersecurity expert about the dangers of oversharing. A consumer first alert tomorrow on Action 2 News this morning.